Hey guys, it's Bill from Linden, Tennessee. Welcome to my mess. I think last time, I need to review my previous videos, otherwise I'll repeat myself. Oh well, I might just repeat myself. Last time I think I showed you this box that I made. This is a box that's going to hold 10, and it's going to go underneath, sort of behind the rear bulkhead. We talked about that. And, well, let me get up under here. I probably could have done this better. I could have actually had what I'm about to show you set up so that you'd be able to see it. But over there is my Tesla. You know what? Hold on. Okay, that literally took 10 seconds, 20 seconds. So here is my mock-up of a drive unit, larger drive unit. This side being the inverter, that side being the motor. There is a mount there, and one in the front, and then one in the back. And this little mock-up weighs about 30 pounds, about 10 times less than the actual motor. So you use this to get things in rough position. And then you can make the actual motor mounts, get them all tacked into place how you want them. Then put the actual motor up in place to see if there's anything that sort of sticks out that this mock-up doesn't represent. And if everything is good, then you take the motor out and you put this back in there and you actually weld it. And I learned that the hard way. The first time I did a Tesla drive unit installation was on the Doka, Smoke a Doka, search that. And when I did do the installation, I did what I just said, except for I put the motor in place and then I just went ahead and finish welded it. Now, whenever you do that, everything moves like a lot. These bushings are actually a little bit oversized on purpose. That way, if it does suck together, then it'll still have enough room that you can get the rubberized bushings that are on the drive unit in it. Well, I didn't do that with the Doka, and it sucked it together, and I never got the thing out, and I had to wallow out the holes, and it was a disaster. It was a mess. But that was my first sort of fabrication project. I was just there last weekend. You can check out another video that I just did in my Cub Cadet series, where I went back to EVTV and looked at the Doka, and I know a lot more now than I knew then, and I'd have done things differently. But yeah, anywho, so this is the drive unit kind of in position, and that sort of represents where the front mount is, of course, and where the dead axle right now is sitting is roughly where the axles, the half shafts, will come out of the drive unit. And we'll go basically vertically. They should be pretty flat. There shouldn't be a whole lot of angle to them. I'm going to try and set it up like the Tesla does. In production, the Tesla has about 5 inches of ground clearance, and I suspect this is going to have about the same. You can see the motor actually hangs below the level of the axle. Likewise, when I had that 10 module battery in here, it hangs, I hope I don't hit a button, it hangs maybe a ½ inch below this bulkhead here. And at the moment, it does kind of angle down because I still have this front shock mount, upper shock mount installed. I may end up cutting that out. I don't really think it's going to be necessary. I won't be able to use it as a shock mount, so it's kind of just in the way. So I'll probably end up just cutting that out, and that'll give me an extra inch of clearance in the front. And that will give me more clearance with the battery box than the motor has. Now the Dion tube is, well, we'll get to that in a minute. So with the 10 pack of batteries, if they are lined up so they go left to right, so that the 34-inch dimension is from left to right on the truck, and the 30-inch dimension is from front to back. Now that fits, it all fits, but I would end up having to push this motor back some, which is okay, but what's not okay is I don't know if I'll have room for the Dion tube to go across. So what I may end up having to do is make a pack of 8 that'll go in the front here, and the modules will be sort of arranged left to right, 8 long, and I think that's 28 inches long or 26 inches long. So it'll significantly shorten up the distance. It'll give me quite a lot of room to pull this forward and maybe even mount some components behind or in front of the battery box. But I do definitely want to have this Dion tube here, and it'll be kind of nice to have it there because it would probably be maybe it will hit something maybe and deflect and not hit the motor. Like if there's some road debris, maybe it'll, I don't know, it might protect my motor from some sort of damage. Who knows? But the cool thing is with all these batteries. Oh, well, let's talk about it. So if I end up doing that, let's go this way. I'm kind of holding this thing upside down. I hope. So if I do that this way, yeah. So there's plenty of room back here for the extra two. And what I'm hoping to be able to do is back there where the license plate is, I'll make a hinge, or I have some hinges. I already have some hinges, like on a cabinet, like a cabinet door that they don't just hinge, but they sort of hinge up and flat and then hold. I might put that on the license plate, and then I can hinge the license plate up and have a 2-inch receiver hitch sort of hidden back there. So I can hinge the license plate up and then put a ball hitch in there. And then there's some solid mounts right here and one on the other side that I could mount it to. Yeah, so that'd be pretty cool. And I think that's the way it's going to have to go. If I can actually fit the 10 in the front, then, you know, that's clearly not a problem back here. And I can put other stuff back here. Maybe I can put a distribution box back here, or contactors, or who knows what else. But I did do a little bit of machining. Thank you, RJE, of course, as always, for letting me just stay there and use that equipment. Man, best job ever. Yeah, so these are, let me get this off of here. What's this? So this is a piece of 5-inch wide by 6-inch tall, or 5-inch tall by 6-inch wide, 1/2-inch tube right there. So this is some pretty beefy stuff. And what I did was put this up in the mill, and there's a horizontal fixture on the mill. So I was able to just sort of run a pass over this and square this up. So this is, excuse me, this is nice and flat. And then I flipped it down on the side again, and then ran that same, oh, what do you call it? Oh, I don't know. It's a thing with a bunch of knives in it. Man, words. That way. So this is nice and square to this surface. So, so yeah. So this is what is going to. That is the shackle. That's what holds the. You can see the mark where the leaf springs were. So the leaf springs will go right here. This will go on top of there, and I'll have holes drilled and tapped here for either 1/2-inch bolts, or I might even do metric bolts because everything else is metric. And so the distance from the flat face of this drum to the inside of this spring, I just chose the inside because I can hook my tape measure on easier. So the inside of this spring to the flat face of this is 11 1/8 of an inch, give or take. I mean, it's really not that important. If I was off by 1/4 of an inch, it wouldn't really make a difference. But it's 11 1/8. So I'm going to try and simulate that very same thing with this. So these are the Tesla hubs that I got machined this very beautifully. Beautiful job. And so the 4 bolt holes match there, and then there's a register on the back of this hub. And then this will eventually get welded much better than that. This will have a groove. I'll have a really deep groove in here on all 4 sides and get good penetration in there with a nice hot weld. Grind these corners off so it's flat, and you won't even know it's there. But this is 5/8 of an inch thick. So all I've got to do is just go from this face right here, 11 1/8 inch, to wherever that ends up. Not so fast though. I almost screwed up. I almost went to work and went ahead and drilled and tapped my holes. But I need to have a disc on here. I need to have disc. I'm going to have disc brakes. So I need to have a disc on here first, and then the thickness of the plate, of the hub, of the hat, I guess you'd call it. I don't know, the flat part that the disc goes on. That thickness, you know, say call it 3/16. I'll have to subtract 3/16 from here. So instead of starting here, I'll start over here, go from that point this way to 11 1/8. But like I said back over there, if I'm off that 3/16, it really won't matter as long as I'm off on both sides. The leaves are going to locate these. So it's not like I'll be off. The only way I would be off on one side and not on the other side is if I measured them wrong, but I won't do that wrong because I'm going to have this in a mill. I'll probably zero the mill out on this face, subtract my distance, and then measure in, and then drill my 4 holes. And then there's a 5th hole in the middle that registers against the bolt that goes through the leaf pack. So that's that. Then let's see, this is where there's a seam where they made these tubes. If you've never watched how they make square tubes like this, it's pretty interesting. They actually start with a round tube and then they just run it through a square or rectangle form, like duh. But so it's got this seam right there, and I want this on the back side. The front side is what's going to, the Dion tube is going to weld to somehow. So I want this on the back side, and I'm probably going to end up chamfering this up, you know, to here maybe, something like that. Probably end up chamfering that up, just I guess for kind of aesthetics, but also just for a little bit of clearance for the CV boot. They do fit in here just fine. The CV boots for the Tesla axles fit in here just fine. Yeah, that's it. As for discs, what I'm going to use, I've got this, it's kind of a problem, first world problem. Tesla hubs are, Tesla bolt pattern is 5 by 120 millimeter circle by 5 lugs. And the Volkswagen is 4 by 100. That's kind of a problem. I would like to have, I don't know where I was going with that. Anyway, so I got to figure out, the discs that I'm going to use for this are going to be from a Buick Regal. They use 5 by 120. So I'll get the discs for that. And that's how that's going to be. And as for the front, you can get adapters to go from 4 by 100. There's Katie. You can get adapters to go from 4 by 100 to 5 by 120. So I'll probably end up doing that on the front. That will space the front wheels out about 1.5 inches. So I may need to take that into account before I do this measurement here. Because if I set the front wheels out 1.5 inches, I kind of want to do that here. Or I can just get deeper spaced, a bigger offset on the wheels. And then they'll just have a bigger offset on the wheels. And the track will actually be narrower in the back than it will in the front. Because the front will be kind of like flat, and the back will have a big dish in it. And that'll look kind of cool. Kind of like a Lamborghini Countach. But, okay. So until I get these discs, and until I figure out what I'm going to do with the hubs or whatever, I believe that's all I'm going to get accomplished this weekend. Not very exciting. Tomorrow I may actually remove that dead axle. That way I can sort of place this up there and see how it looks. But, well, I thought I was going to call it a weekend. I got those discs ordered, like I said, but I didn't want to kill a day, so I went ahead and pulled out the old angle grinder, a little sort of a dull sanding pad on it, and kind of gently went after these little rusty spots on the side. Turns out that they're more than just sort of surface rust. There's quite a few holes all the way through them. And I also came back here to investigate one other spot of rust. And as you can see by that mess down there and some spark burns all over my hands, I went ahead and got rid of all the rot that was in here. Got it all trimmed back to solid metal, and went on and ordered some 20 gauge sheet metal. Yeah, so with this and the 2 door panels, this is really the only areas of rust that I have found. I guess these are notorious for rusted out floorboards and shock towers, but all that stuff is great on here. If you look way back in there, that sort of inner structure, that tube is pretty trashed, but I'm not going to do anything about that. So what I'll do is I'll just make some panels that'll fill in that spot. I'm not going to worry about this seam. Just fill that all in, weld it down here on the bottom, weld it all the way around the top. I made a little template that shows me what the contour of this panel was, because it kind of came down this way and then cut out that way. And I'll just go ahead and fill that all in like it's supposed to be. I can come in from this side and weld this panel in on the inside really, really good. And then I'll go ahead and make a little panel to fill in that hole. And this is just a simple, It's not compound curve, just a simple bend, so that should be okay. And it's down there on the corner, down at the bottom where you can't really see it, so if it gets nasty, then, you know, who's to know. But it'll give me some good practice for when I go and tackle this up here, because what I'm going to do with this and the driver's side, I'm just going to take, and I'll probably just cut a rectangle, because it'll be easier to make a new piece to fit in. Just cut a rectangle that goes all the way over here, goes all the way up, all the way over and down. Same on the other side. And again, this is just a single plain bend, and it's not even very much of a curve. So that should be fairly simple to patch in a new piece. There is one crease right here and a few little dents. The other side, I'll show you, it turns out that someone had tried to fix this, but you see this side is much worse. But there's just shitloads of Bondo all over this thing. There's no telling how much of this is Bondo. And the question is, you know, do I go ahead and sand that all down to get down to the metal? Because I did get underneath some of this Bondo, and there was some rust underneath of it, so they didn't really prep the metal underneath of it. So you kind of have to go down there and get all that stuff off of there, and make sure that the metal is all good and clean. Because otherwise, when I go and put a nice paint job on this, then it's only going to be a matter of time before that rust comes through and screws up my new paint. So I'm going to have to do that. And there's a crack right here. No telling what kind of demons are underneath of that. Yeah, let's find out. Right. Yeah, there's a lot of Bondo right there. So this is probably all dented pretty bad. But you know, I'll go ahead and I'll grind all this down to get down to bare metal and see what I'm messing with. Maybe I can repair it. I actually just found a nice guy, a really cool guy on Facebook. He just reached out to me. His name is Joe. Really nice guy. We've been kind of chatting back and forth about my situation, and he's got door panels. He's got the door skins, and he's also got the door panels for reasonable prices. He's in Georgia. It's kind of a drive, but probably be cheaper to drive there than have the shipping. But anyway, that is what I have done. Oh yeah, and I also got the rear axle out, so I can go ahead and mess around with that and set that drive unit up again, set it much closer where it needs to be. I can modify my box here and cut out 2 modules from it to make it about 6 inches shorter. Set it up inside there where it's going to be. I'll go ahead and cut that top shock mount out and set that box up in there where it's going to be. And then, actually I might not cut the shock mount out because I still don't know with 100% certainty if this whole Tesla thing's going to work. I'm 99% certain, but I'm not 100% certain. So I don't want to go cutting shock towers out yet until I absolutely have to. And you never know, if I cut 6 inches off of that box, it might scoot it up forward enough that it'll clear that shock tower anyway. And that would be kind of handy because I could use a shock tower to put shocks on. Anyway, that is what I've been up to this weekend. I wouldn't say there's been a great deal of progress, but there has been some progress. And some progress is better than no progress. So, I just found another hole. There's another spot right there that needs some attention. Yeah, that might be rusted all the way through. I don't know. We have to poke at it with something sharp. So, all right, guys. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.